Next is the good of the cause, where members of the public are invited to express themselves on school-related matters of concern. Folks are reminded to protect the privacy of all students and staff. Concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first addressing with the appropriate staff member. Anybody wish to speak to the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public portion and move on. I'm going to combine our... Well, first let me make note, we do have a personnel addendum, and we also have bid award materials in the dais this evening in addition. So I'm going to combine our Board of Education items through, that would be F through O, Transportation Services. So may I have a motion for the items in F through O?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Becker, second by Dr. Cohen. Is there any discussion? Anything from F through O? Mrs. Shaw.
Let me just see what letter this is. This is under letter I, Financial Services. On the following page, number 2 is Capital Reserve Account Withdrawal. And we have 2 projects listed there. We have the Maintenance and Transportation Facility in the amount of $10,000. And then we have the High School Guidance Suite renovation in the amount of $100,000. And I wondered if I could get a little more detail on what the renovation to the guidance suite will include. I know that we were told that it would include new furniture. Is there any construction that will actually be done in the...
Minimal construction to the guidance suite. Mr. Giuliana, you're handling that project, would you mind?
So basically, right now we've got the flooring in there, the carpeting in there is overly worn. It is almost at the point of really becoming a hazard. So we'll be pulling all of that out throughout the 2 suites. There are 2 suites at the high school. We'll be updating the walls, probably doing a full paint job in there as well. And then the furnishings in the guidance counselors' offices have delaminated so that they're becoming an issue as well. So we'll be replacing the furnishings throughout the offices as well.
Okay, I just had kind of felt that, for a brand-new building, which our maintenance transportation facility is, it's only costing us $10,000 to outfit that building?
No. So with regard to the maintenance and transportation facility, we have all the shops that before our folks move in, so we're talking about the trades, so we're talking about the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, and so forth. We have to begin to outfit those shops because they're going from nothing to something.
Okay.
So these funds are toward beginning to outfit those workspaces.
And those were the areas that...
They were in the warehouse.
The caged
areas out in the warehouse.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So 2 completely different things.
All right, thank you. And were student services included in this? Okay. I have another question regarding letter N, student services. This would be number 2. And we're talking about a student who came into our district on a tuition basis in 2015 and 16. And I was curious if that student would be continuing with us in 16, 17.
Yes, it's will be.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Cohen?
In light of the fact that we're going to approve a contract for Aramark with an additional opportunity to renew, a right to renew for additional 4 years, I thought maybe a comment on how we've actually done with Aramark this year financially might be an opportune time to do that.
Go on, Joe.
Mr. Kochko.
The Child Nutrition Department is seeing a market increase in the profits earned this year.
Well, we're seeing a profit, period.
Yes.
Okay.
So last year, just
Not an
for
increase, yes.
reference, we lost approximately $24,000. We're projecting a profit of approximately $170,000 this year. Of course, there's still closing entries to be done, but we're pretty confident in that number. So Aramark has done a really good job, our staff, Advocate, it's been a team effort to turn the program around.
To what do we think we attribute this? Is it, now, we know we had some high school cafeteria renovations, a much more appealing place to have lunch, many more choices in the high school. Is it a combination of everything we're seeing? Do we get any feedback from kids?
It is a combination. We've increased meal sales by approximately 30,000 meals this year. Breakfast program has been expanded. We're in the process of tallying a survey that we sent out to all the elementary students. And we're constantly seeking feedback from the upper schools, the quality of the food, the options that the kids have has increased drastically. So in feedback from staff, so it's everything combined. There's not one specific thing that has led to it.
You mentioned our books close June 30, so you still have time to actually get the final numbers in, but we have a pretty good ballpark of where they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me. Joe, I know that our decisions for Aramark were not done for immediate concerns. We were looking for a large plan, like 3, 4, 5 years. From where they are now to where we need to be, is the plan still working that we have for them?
Well, the plan is working, but we always change the plan.
Correct.
You know, so if we achieve what we're expecting to this year, then we're going to set the benchmark higher.
We're still on. We're still
Yes.
on track to where we
This will
were.
be Aramark's second complete year. This contract is for the third year. We can go up to 5 years before we have to go out for RFP again. So we're on right where we need to be.
We're on target. Thank you.
Oh, recall that we brought them in because we were continuously going in a downward trend, and if we lost money, we lose the right to manage that program ourselves. The state takes that from us. So the fact that we've even turned it around and are not losing money is already a huge improvement over the direction that we would have been going in otherwise. And we did it with our own people. We didn't fire anybody. So I think as the affiliation with Aramark has been a benefit to everybody. I think it was a good move.
One of the things, too, I have to mention publicly is that this year Joe took over the operation of the of child nutrition, and his communication style with the child nutrition staff, asking for their feedback, adjusting for their concerns. He's the middleman between Aramark and the staff, and he's done an excellent job of that. And I think the communication has improved significantly this year with multiple meetings, and that too is generating a lot of goodwill. But our staff, our child nutrition staff, has stepped up, and they have performed admirably in the situation, so that they're responsible for some of the success.
Good, then I'm going to hope that this is the end of involvement from Aramark. In other words, they have their role,
Right.
and that is their role, and that's not going to be expanded. It doesn't need to be expanded. It looks like there's no reason for Aramark to expand its presence. They have, you know what I'm saying, that we have our people here.
Yep.
And it looks like things are moving well. Okay?
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone else? Okay.
Susanna has a...
Oh, this is you.
Yeah, I have a question on H2, the East Brunswick High School Health Suite relocation. So, I know in the past when there's been one bidder, and we talked about it, it was because it was a very unique kind of situation. So in this case, I was just curious, it was submitted to 4 vendors and we only got one bidder, and this is a very significant dollar amount. You're looking puzzled, Vicki.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh.
What item were you asking about?
H2?
Okay, H2.
H2.
H2. It's the East Brunswick High School Health Suite relocation. So it is a significant amount of money with one bidder, so I was just curious as to why just one bidder.
Well, obviously, we have no control over
Who bids, right.
Who bids. However, the project is within the estimated budget, so we're confident that the number is good. The other thing is that this project has to be done by September before kids are back. So we don't believe, and in speaking with our architect, that there'd be any value or any gain, really, by going back out to bid and delaying the project beyond the timeframes that we had already set for the project.
Okay, so it's within what you
Yes,
expected
yes.
it to come in at? Okay.
What's
thank
going to go where the health suite was?
Where the health suite would have been, or will end up not being anymore, is that space will be turned into a classroom space. The block walls within that are creating all the separate sections right now, they'll come down, and that will be opened into a larger classroom area, most likely being able to service one of the special ed programs because it has the restroom facilities right in that space.
So, Mr. Giuliano, when do you expect that space to be available for students?
The
classroom
current,
space?
the classroom space?
Yeah.
I don't have an exact time
But it
frame
won't
on
be for
that.
the opening of
It
school?
will not be for
Okay.
opening of school, no.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
No.
everybody knew it would be the opening of school.
Okay. And then another question on, sorry, I-1, I feel like I'm calling bingo. So on I-1, I was, first of all, commend you and the team for taking the initiative to, go after the energy improvements. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the findings in the energy audit and what kind of savings we think we can expect to see, since this proposal is to move forward with the solicitation for proposals.
Right, so let me explain a little bit about process. So a number of months back during this past school year, the board had approved moving forward with an energy audit. That's what was conducted during the past year. In meetings that we've had, we kind of have identified that as kind of being a 50,000-foot view on the district. They come in, they do an audit, it's kind of high level. They identify where opportunities exist to make improvements. The vast majority of the opportunities are in lighting upgrades, and they identify what those are. It could be rooftop units, for example. They've been identified on a number of buildings, in some cases replacing the walk-in refrigerators and so forth. That audit comes up with what the estimated savings would be in both kilowatt hours and gas usage. The projected savings that has been identified is at $1.4 million district-wide. The majority of that being at one school, Churchill, about $900,000 just identified in Churchill. So, so from that point, getting from that 50,000-foot view, we now go to the next level, which is the what we're doing here with the RFP, and that's to bring in an energy savings company, which is an ESCO. Now it's bringing that more finite review of the recommendations that are made. This company that is selected through the RFP process will do its work, come up with specific, very specific recommendations, and then beyond that, there's another process of bringing on an independent verifier that will then basically audit their recommendations to validate whether what they're saying is true and achievable. So multiple layers of process. There's a lot of process involved, but the state has established this process to be somewhat complicated because in the end, the way we achieve the savings, or what we do with the savings, they go to fund the work. So we don't have to issue notes, we don't have to issue bonds, it doesn't affect.
And we didn't have to pay for the audit.
And we don't have to pay for the audit. So this is all, there's no sense in not doing it.
Right.
There's value to this, especially when the opportunity exists to save money on our energy bill and be able to utilize those savings to pay for the additional work that we would get done. Now, part of what we'd have to look at is what's the return on investment? Because while we reduce the energy cost in the budget, and that money goes toward making payments down the road, if those payments are for a limited period of time, and all things being equal, eventually, that amount that we're paying would then go away and then comes back into the budget. Now, we're talking long-term, we have to look, and then technologies change and so forth, but this is supposed to have a net zero impact on the budget.
So as we get further down the road, we'll get better numbers
Yes,
around what
and then we can
expect to see
pick
in
what
savings.
makes sense in terms of the projects. So we're not wedded to any particular project.
Yeah.
As we get the more finite information, then we can have a conversation on what are the things we want to tackle, where does it make sense?
And
to-
we didn't have to pay for the audit, and as far as this firm for the ESCO, does the program cover that cost as well? So we
Yes.
don't have to pay for that?
Right.
So,
So,
good.
right, and so this is the process to begin looking for an ESCO.
Is there a reason that there's a disproportionate amount coming from Churchill? You said 900 of the
Yeah,
million?
yeah.
$960,000.
Yeah, what is it about Churchill that
Is there,
that there's more opportunity for savings?
I wouldn't even say age, but a large portion of it really has to do with the lighting improvements. The major considerations for Churchill had to do with controls for the systems there, kitchen hood controls. That's not going to cost a lot of money. The other bullet point was on lighting replacements and upgrades with control systems. So it seems to all be in the lighting
So
area.
we may have done lighting upgrades in the other schools somewhere along the way.
And you have a big footprint at Churchill
Yeah.
as well. So, and while folks look at Churchill as a building that has been renovated, the building really hasn't been. We have an addition that was put in between two old buildings. So we still have an old building at the north end and an old building at the south end.
Right.
So it's important to keep that, in mind.
Great work.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Becker?
Bernie?
Yes.
I know sustainability is the buzzword today, and most offices, corporations, and school districts integrated into their culture, their everyday culture. But we actually, this is not the first time that we have engaged in energy saving. We were actually ahead of our time. I can remember years ago, and then quite a few years in a row, we were awarded an energy designation for energy saving program. So this is something that's been on our radar for a really long time.
Yeah.
When was that? I can't remember the year.
That designation, when they came down to actually present a plaque to the district, that's going back probably about, I'm going to say 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
But we've continued on that
Yeah.
trend and a lot of it is very simple, common sense kinds of things.
Yeah.
Turning off computers and light management and so forth.
Lights, yeah.
But even before that, the district had engaged in energy audits.
Right.
So we've had at least 2 other audits in the time that I've been here. And this is my 23rd year. So,
Right,
yeah,
I remember
this
with
is not
that,
an anomaly.
when we were presented with the plaque, a lot of the efforts that were made involved things that we asked the staff to do. And they really rose to the occasion and were directly responsible for the great savings that we had. But I just wanted anyone viewing at home to know that this is something that we have been involved in for at least a decade.
Anyone else? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes, motion carried.